Of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Thanks very much. Good luck. Good luck to everyone. This is obviously a catastrophe. We'll continue our coverage right after this.
Wherever to begin, the destruction is so vast. We have a report from there that's coming up.
Evacuation centers. About 200,000 people who survived the tsunami and quake have been evacuated because of radiation fears from that crippled nuclear plant. The governor of Fukushima spoke about the overwhelming challenges ahead.
First of all, the evacuation. And to evacuate, they need somewhere to evacuate to, and that has been very difficult to find. And even if they find an evacuation destination, they are made to move again. Therefore, that we have secured the minimum amount of food, but warm food and daily necessities supplies are all in shortage.
My husband was at City Hall, and then...
No, you have not heard from him?
Let's go. I want to go home.
For the quake survivors, the heartbreaking search for loved ones, of course, goes on. You see some of the images of destruction and despair of people still hoping against hope so many days after the earthquake struck that those they are waiting for are alive, trapped somewhere perhaps. But if they are, there's another challenge for them, and that is the freezing cold. Pedram Javaheri joins me now with more on the temperatures and how low they've fallen. It's also making the task of the rescue workers more difficult as they search amid the debris of devastated areas. Pedram, what are we looking at there in that quake zone?
Yeah, you know, they sit at about 40 degrees latitudinal mark. That's equivalent to, say, New York City or right around, say, areas of Washington, D.C. in the North America region. So it's a very north latitude, and you take a look at that, of course, snow showers plenty to go around, and you have folks out there trying to do anything they can to get anything of their leftovers, perhaps, their belongings, and, of course, officials trying to find survivors. And you're accumulating a couple centimeters of snowfall on top of this, and the official number is about 2 centimeters out of Sendai. Now, on average, for the month of March, they do pick up some snowfall, about 15 centimeters to be exact, and Fukushima picks up a few centimeters as well, and so far, they've recorded about 1 centimeter. So certainly the snowfall has been a little wetter as opposed to a drier snow, which accumulates better, so that's the good news out of this, but the wind's also on the strong side. That's a favorable wind. It's coming in from the northwest, so any sort of radioactive material that would be pushed offshore, and that's really been the prominent feature associated with this weather pattern. But take a look at this. Northwest wind, 17 kilometers per hour right now. That's out of Fukushima. There is the power plant. There is the observation point. Again, being that west to east component, it takes all that radioactive material, the potential material out there, offshore, and that's the good news. But certainly the temperatures have been downright chilly, a wind chill down to minus 10 degrees, and we know some 450,000 people living in makeshift shelters out there and evacuation centers, so certainly the element's not going to help out. There is that storm system that's going to eject from the area the next 24 hours, and Hala finally an improving forecast. Temperatures, the average is 9. Notice we quickly get up above average by the time Saturday comes around, and also the snow showers are all done with, so a better looking forecast on the way.
Thanks very much, Pedram Javaheri. That terrible weather is adding more pain to the injuries sustained in northern Japan. Brian Todd is just one of CNN's reporters covering this tragedy. He's with one search and rescue team in the disaster zone.
We're in the town of Kamaishi in northeastern Japan. Got here this afternoon to find this scene here. Pretty much tells the story. Complete devastation in this neighborhood. These teams have to comb through all this rubble. It's very heavily concentrated, and the houses clearly have been displaced, knocked into each other. There's a house that was knocked over and possibly into that other one over there as these guys try to enter that house. You can see them over there. They're working against every conceivable obstacle over here. Tons of mud, debris all over the place. You've got down power lines, and the weather obviously has turned very, very bad and risky for these crews. What are the added complications here with the snow?
There's a lot of complications that are added by the snow. First of all, the slip and fall hazards are obviously there. Yeah. But the snow adds a different element in that it does hide things. It makes a lot of the ground look identical all the way through, and it makes it much harder for rescuers to identify what may be a pit, what may be an entrance to a cellar, and so we could easily miss things. So our people have to be much more direct on that.
It's a scene of complete destruction, but it's worth it for these guys to pick through every inch, make their way through the downed power lines, over all the objects, into the spaces, because the stakes are enormous, of course, but there is opportunity. There are voids seemingly everywhere you look. Under this house, spaces where people could be sheltering, waiting for these guys to arrive. Under here, everywhere you look, a possibility for rescue. These guys have almost no room to operate as they try to get into this house that's been turned completely on its side. Look at this. They've got to slide through these openings, have nails around, all kinds of sharp objects. Here's a guy coming out. What's incredible about these places is, even with no sign of life, seemingly nothing to come back to, people keep coming back. There's a couple over there picking their way through this rubble that you can barely walk through, trying to get to their house, maybe find something that they can take back. Late in the day here, the hope of finding someone alive gave way to a desperate reality yet again. A body was found inside this house in one of the crevices. They covered it in a flowered blanket. So this area, like so many others, devastated by the tsunami. No survivors found here in the wreckage, so we move on to the next area. Brian Todd, CNN, Kamaishi, Japan.